Welcome back, folks, to the Membership Machine Show, where we discuss all things membership and WordPress. I've got my great co-host with me, Spencer Forum. In this show, we're going to discuss the 8 membership mistakes you want to avoid in 2023. I think it should be a good show. I think Spencer thinks I'm one big mistake, but there we go.
Maybe we can change that to the 8 membership, the 8 membership things that we've been making a mistake on.
Exactly. So, Spencer, would you like to introduce yourself to the new listeners and viewers?
Good afternoon for many of you. Good morning. This is Spencer Foreman from WP-Launchify.com or Spencer Foreman on all socials, as well as SpencerForeman.com is my hub.
That's great.
Cheers to everyone. Glad to be here on a Friday that comes faster every week. Do you feel that way, John? I'm 56. I'm going to be 57, and I feel like at the rate it's going, that's going to be 3 blinks away.
Yep, certainly is. That's all I can say to you. If you've got any plans, you better get on with them. We've got a great subject. You know, when you're starting a membership website, it's easy to make some mistakes. There's no problem in that, as long as they don't kind of destroy what you're trying to do. We've got some insights. It should be a great show. But before we go into the main content of the show, I've got a couple of messages from our major sponsors. We'll be back in a few moments, folks.
This podcast episode is brought to you by Lifter LMS, the leading learning management system solution for WordPress. If you or your client are creating any kind of online course, training-based membership website, or any type of e-learning project, Lifter LMS is the most secure, stable, well-supported solution on the market. Go to lifterlms.com and save 20% at checkout with coupon code podcast20. That's podcast20. Enjoy the rest of your show.
Coming back, just like to point out that if you're looking to start a membership website on WordPress, and you should do, for ownership and the flexibility and power, why don't you have a look at WP-Tonic and what we've got to offer? We offer really fantastic hosting. We just specialize in membership learning management and Buddy Boss. That's what we specialize in. We offer all the best plugins. We offer email and video. We offer everything in one package, so you don't have to waste your time. If that's interesting, go over to WP-Tonic. So let's go straight into the 8 things and see if we got any insights to offer our audience, Spencer. So number 1, pushing your membership too much or maybe too little. I think it's a hard one to balance. What's your insights about this, Spencer?
Well, I think we really need to say, like, the 5 W's: who, what, when, where, why, and how. So I think the context for this, number 1, is it's presuming that you've got a membership audience and you're selling them something, which is either coursework or community, could be one-to-one services or interaction. But I think the takeaway for this is, depending on what you're offering them and in what context, sometimes you can create an anxiety that backfires on you. And I think the idea here is that some person might learn at a different pace than another person. And I'll tell you a personal example of this to set the tone. I subscribe to many newsletters that are free. Some of them have amazing content. I run normally inbox 0 with my email, but I have one folder that now has 57 things for Spence to read. And I got to tell you, as time goes on, I'm getting closer to giving myself,
do you think that if I have the time to read them before you die? Because you know it's coming quick, isn't it? You're 56, you're finished anyway.
I mean, so again, I'm not saying it's only for subscription content, but talk about membership content. in today's world, 2023, with AI and everybody generating content flying all over, you know what really resonates is executive summary, bullet points, less information, more to the point of what you're trying to make, I think is more effective. So the takeaway on this is, regardless of whether it's community interaction, newsletters, courses, videos, less is more to allow people to understand from your specific point of view something that doesn't make them feel like they have more work to do.
Yeah, it's a you know, obviously you can touch your audience too lightly, not communicate the value of the membership, what you're offering, but you also, on the other hand, you can touch them too much. So have you got any insights about how you find the right balance at all, or do you think it's solely just?
I think it's in context, because I found that, again, I'm digging all the AI stuff. I really am. I'm in it like deep and in a great way, but it's emphasizing more than ever the thing that's really valuable in my particular wheelhouse, and I think for many people, is the point at which the tools intersect with the real human being. I feel that my customers want to interact with me at the level of personal calls, hands-on help, education, or even in my written or produced video content, because of my unique way to explain things or do things for them. So what I'm saying is, all the tools and automations in the world don't change the fact that the point at which you interact with the customers, that's where you have to decide what's the temperature of those folks. Where do they fit in the world of desire to get the Encyclopedia Britannica, or do they just want the 3 bullet points from you? And I think in today's world, human beings want shortcuts specifically from human beings. I mean, the tools are great, but then you have to know how to act with the tools. Right now, they want their friend. Oh, Spence, can you show me, or can you do that for me? Or could you take care of all this stuff for me? Because I'd really like to do other things. That, I think, is the opportunity. And since we're talking in the show, I think, about membership sites that are for monetary purposes, that's the value proposition that really becomes exciting now, is that all of this extra stuff just creates more anxiety for people. Make it easier for them. Say that you'll do it for them. Say that you'll summarize it for them or get it down to them. Don't make it harder by going, look, here's 10,000 more things to bother with.
Right, let's go on to number 2, resenting your earlier members. I suppose that's around offering better membership to later members, price increase, how you deal. You know, you probably done early bird offers to get your membership website up and running with its first batch of students. Obviously, you start increasing the prices. How do you deal with all that without alienating and pissing off the earlier people that joined the membership website? Got any
You talking
insights
about number 2
about that? Pardon?
I'm sorry. Are you on number 2? Resenting your earlier members?
Yes.
Yeah. So with that one, I have a golden rule, and this is applied to my software, my memberships, and so forth.
Yeah.
That is, you always start low and go high. And Nathan Barry has got a lot of credit for this one, but he talked in his early days before ConvertKit, when he was doing the guides and stuff. Push until it breaks, then back it down. So by doing the golden rule of always protecting your early adopters, you can do that very system. For my plugins, for my software, for my membership, you start at something that is really easy for everyone to get on board with, but you tell them, don't expect a miracle here, because this is early days. As you improve it, there's more content, more value, more curation, more interaction, whatever. You can say, I'm grandfathering in all my early adopters, and they're forever protected, which then further reinforces how great of a person you are, because you keep your promises and you do what you say. Those early adopters become your greatest advocates, and they further give you social proof that you'll need to get the other people on board, and they'll further reinforce that the value is already there, even at the higher price. And this snowballs upwards. The mistake I see people make are twofold. Number one is that they are duplicitous. The chocolate factory, duplicitous.
Oh,
Number
you're back on the chocolate factory.
I'm always on the chocolate factory. Number 2 mistake is that you double down and screw your early adopters. You start too high, you go for a lifetime promise, and instead of sucking it up and eating your mistake, you change the plan on your early adopters. And tomorrow we're raising the price 100%. Screw you guys. That is a guaranteed recipe for failure. And the first one, the chocolate factory model, is being one way in public and another way in what you think is private, but now everybody knows is public, because the wolves will circle the camp, your tent. They will be waiting for it. And as one who takes pride in the fact that I think people should be true to their word in public as they are in private, that's something that is a bad recipe in the long run for business. Because, yeah, you might be a multimillionaire, but at what cost? You know, being known as a douchebag or dishonest or somebody who destroyed a community's principles. Is that really worth it? Okay, go for it. But not a lot of people are going to stand for that in a world where everything is known.
Yeah, well put, actually. There's quite a few people in the US banking sector that want to know that one. All right.
I mean, the banking sector, you know, they get away with it as like their Wall Street and banking. That's their credo, is lie, cheat, steal, screw everybody. I mean, if that's the life you want to live, go for it. I mean, say love it.
They must have the film Wall Street on loop. Actually, it must be their prayer book.
Greed is, for the lack of a better word, Jonathan, is good.
It's good. Yeah.
Not.
Yeah, there we go. There we are. Number 3, and I think number 3 is really important, actually. It's one of the strengths of WordPress when it comes to a membership, which is neglecting customer experience. I think this is crucial. I think it's crucial around the onboarding experience. And also, the reason why I think WordPress is really strong in this is that you do have the ability to customize the UR, UX, the actual experience, where on other platforms you're just stuck with their experience. So you can customize it more so you have a unique experience. Is this making sense, Spencer?
Yeah. I mean, the thing that is part of having a relationship with your customers, honoring early adopters, getting a crazy group of fans, even though it's been disproven, and even the person who said 10,000 fans denies having said it, or 1,000 fans. You know, the concept is still solid, and I've demonstrated that for myself and my students over the years. Part of the bundle of things that go along with that is that you have to demonstrate a willingness and an openness and an ability to execute on recommendations from the people in your community. So again, in WordPress and software, our friend Jack Arturo and Chris at Lifter LMS and the whole team over there with Kurt and so forth, they all follow that principle. I followed that with launch flows, where it's one thing to think you know better, which is true, and have an open dialogue about why something is necessary. But if it's demonstrated by the audience they want something, you put it there into the tools, into the software. Same thing for your membership site, because the whole point is you're providing a pain resolution for some group of people for whom you're the leader. And being a responsible leader, like being a good parent or being a good friend, means that you have an open dialogue, a healthy debate, but you ultimately do what's good for the community that you've created. And I think being prompt about that is really important. Compare that with some of the SaaS situations, some of the open social network platform situations where you're not going to get anything over here. That's not healthy, because your members are going to respond. The customer experience being so ridiculous that I have to make 9 different clicks to do what could have been done with one, or worse. I used to give a hard time to Heather Renzi about this, because there was a great tool that I have the old version of still on Mac for screen grabbing stuff. She used to work with that company. And I used to give her a hard time because the original tool was awesome. And then they screwed it up so bad that it couldn't be used. That's a joke, but it happens all the time, especially like when Microsoft or Google buys somebody. Don't be like that.
Yeah, that's a great point. Number 4, not creating a content engine. I suppose this is linked because I've always had mixed feelings with this. Well, it's revenue that you can build a membership website and it's turnkey. You know, you don't have to keep nurturing the business, the membership website, and you know, like it's linked to this idea of a 4-hour week or something. I think a membership website in 2023 has it's still a great opportunity to build something as a secondary business, as something that somebody can attempt to do successfully. But these people that push this idea that you don't have to keep producing content and be actively involved in it, I just think that's a load of cobblers and always has been. What's your own thoughts about it?
Yeah, I mean, the thing that this goes back to is when we started the show talking about how much content do people need. Now, there's in many ways, I think, an inverse ratio for today's world, because when I practice law, when I did real estate, when I'm doing things now with OpenAI, I find that the most valuable thing is to get the very specific singular answer I need at the moment, versus like the old days when I was a kid, the Encyclopedia Britannica was legitimately a thing, or the World Book. It was like 25 books of all the world's information, because we lived in a world where you didn't have access to everything all of the time. Today, it's inverted. Today, we have access to everything literally at every moment. So there's too much to choose from. So now the world of content is more, I've seen this week, for example. Now it's like, let me give you the 3 chat GPT prompts to use to get a specific answer. Or here's a plugin that takes away a task. And I think that's really important. In fact, for today's show, I'm generating for us like the show notes and a summary and a blog post. I'm using the tools because that is no longer relevant. And similarly, if you're a member and I'm offering you stuff and you've got, let's say, a broad array of things going on, you'd probably do better if I was very granular about what I'm giving you at that moment. So rather than a full content library, it'd be like, ask Spence anything. You ask a question, I give you a very granular response to that specific thing, and we keep repeating that. That's better than making you comb through Indiana Jones style a gigantic library of my crap from ages ago.
You know what's just come through my mind as you were saying that? Are you developing an AI version of yourself then? Is that what we're going to get? AI version?
I've already done that in the past, using a tool called Descript back in the early days, 4 years ago. I published that I had taken my voice and made a replacement. Now, they do have early versions and better. Well, there's a place called 11 Labs that has a tool for anybody now to make instantly their own voice. So you can type in or put in a bunch of text. It reads it in your voice. They have another tool that will take the version of you, it's early days, replace your mouth with AI and have you speaking in another language, like Spence's video natively in Spanish. They have another one that'll make, obviously you've seen a million of these, people in static graphical positions, like for thumbnails. So all I'm saying is there will be a time when artificial personas or versions of a real person in an artificial form will be the norm. But until we get to the 5 senses version of the world, where like literally we've got goggles on when we're floating in liquid with sensory, the thing that will become more valuable, in my opinion, is going to be the interface between an obviously real person and another real person. And at least for the immediate future, that still is an it's a protected state of being. There's no physical interfaces. Now, those Boston Dynamic robots, the sex robots from Japan, all those kinds of things are apparently coming real fast. But for now, today, we're still reasonably safe.
I've got my order in. I'm not going to tell you if it's with Boston or the Japanese, though.
Wait, what?
Oh, I'm sorry, he's not getting my... Hey, can you hear me? You're not getting my jokes.
Hello?
No. I think I'm getting it go right.
Reasonable.
So
I can hear about 60% of a normal person.
all right, there we go. That's his statement, and he's sticking to it. We're going to go for our break, folks. We'll be back with some other insights. We'll be back in a few moments, folks. We're coming back. Spencer's chilled out. I think he's getting ready for spring break. I think he's off roaming because
I'm going to Toronto.
Yeah, as you do at the end of March. Lovely. So there we go.
Hockey fans, hockey family.
Yeah, I hope you're taking some warm clothing with you. So he doesn't sound very. I offered, why don't you come to the West Coast?
I may come to visit you. I may come
that away.
Before April is done, I may come to visit you and do a couple laps around Mammoth Mountain or something. Yeah, we'll see.
We'll see. So yes. Before we go into the other points of this great show, I just want to point out we've got a great Facebook community, the Membership Machine Facebook group. Why don't you go over and join it? It will be in the show notes. Join us there. It's a great community. We have developers, entrepreneurs, membership entrepreneurs. We're trying to build a great community there. Both me and Spencer are admins there. And you've got any questions, and also consider joining us live on the show. We do this around 8:30 every Friday Pacific Standard Time. If you've got any urgent questions or want any advice, you can ask us during the show and we will answer it during the show. So let's go on our journey, not focusing on retention. Well, I think this is very linked to bootstrap startup terminology. If you've got a leaky bucket and you're just concentrating on filling the bucket with new sales, but the retention is like a leaky bucket, that's a problem. I think obviously for understandable reasons people really focus on sales, but I also think at some stage you've got also retention. What's your own thoughts about this?
I think I have another demonstrable rule that has come from running membership sites now since the beginning, almost 16, 17 years. If you have a monthly membership site, the plans could be varied. I mean, you can have content that you're selling specific membership to, but like if you have an all-in-one take what you want buffet style, which is a very effective and very powerful way of doing things for some types of content, what you will find is that no matter what you do or try, you will have a 2 to 3 month churn. So people stay for 2 months, maybe 3, and they will churn out. Why? Well, for example, let's say you've got unlimited access to marketing materials or playing an instrument lessons or whatever. The same thing we just talked about of information overload and anxiety comes into play. Somebody gets really excited in month 1. They spend the $47 or whatever a month for access to whatever you want. Month 2, they do a little more, but then they start to realize, oh, I got other stuff to do. By month 3, they start to think to themselves like, I scratched my itch. I don't know if I'm going to keep doing this every month. I would rather not keep paying that amount of money. Now, there are exceptions to this rule, of course. But so for that reason, I think that in many cases, it's better to offer something that's a once a year, like maybe 12 months for the price of 10, because that sort of removes a lot of the anxiety that would otherwise force you to have to lower the price monthly to a place where you really need a lot of people to make it worthwhile, right? So even if you look at the TV things like the Netflix, Hulu, Disney, and so forth, I mean, it's $14 a month for like they used to charge us $25 to rent one movie, for God's sake, or whatever. Now it's like you could watch 24/7 and never run out, you and 5 family members. So the reason is that they recognize that they're trying to find that sweet spot where people will just stay. So it really comes down to, is it better to charge like a year, maybe 12 months, you charge 10 months for the value of going for 12 months of access, or Do you go to a monthly model where you really have to kind of get that price down to really, really, I don't care level? But when you do that, it's at the risk of somebody, for example, doing a hit and run, which isn't the end of the world for digital content. But, that's when somebody joins up for a month, just spends all month just grabbing everything they can and downloading it and whatever. That's very rare in today's world because people have a feeling of abundance, but it's something that you need to consider. And that's where your retention is, because your retention is really about adjusting your pricing to meet the needs and the sort of response of your members. You can't just do this in a vacuum.
Yeah, I think it's also linked to kind of building community for other parts of Buddy Boss. Also having different membership levels, group level membership, which you lead a group, and then individual coaching or and have those inbuilt into a membership structure. I think these are all important as well. Would you agree, Spencer?
Yeah. I mean, there's plenty of things that involve retention, but it has to do with, are people getting value? Are you being the kind of leader of the community or of your membership site that people feel is being, truthful, or are you being disingenuous? Are people getting what they came for in the form of a pain solution or painting a pretty picture? I mean, you have to start with what's the thing you're actually offering for money. And then in a membership situation, you're usually saying that people are going to pay more than once. There are exceptions, but it's typically a recurring membership. In that sense, you have to first start with product market fit, and you have to understand who the prospects are, because you can't just offer it to everybody. There's no one size fits all. But then once you start doing that, you have to be involved. And I think it's interesting, in the course of all the businesses and products that I've sold from the earliest days and when I was a youth all the way up till now, they have a recurring theme, which is where I'm saying a lot of people who are worried about automation can look. Human beings are lazy and want other human beings to tell them specifically what to do, how to do it, or do it for them. That's a rule that will never go away. I mean, even when we have a digital robot or something, we're going to be like, hey, robot friend, can you do this for me? If it gets to the mechanical level, sure, there's going to be a lot of people that are going to live in a one-room hotel with no windows, like a movie, and never leave the house. But for the majority of people, they're still going to crave real physical, breathing human beings for that advice, because we're very, tribal in nature.
Oh, well, I look forward to the metrics, where we all become human batteries. That's fantastic. There we go.
You'll have no need for a physical body at that point. You'll just go.
Do you want the red pill or the blue pill, Spencer?
I mean, it's more like, just to get like in the movie realm, the scene with Joe Pantoliano in The Matrix, where I think he's talking to Neo or whatever. He's like eating a steak, and he's like kind of the character Guido the Killer Pimp. He's like, I know the steak ain't real, and this ain't real, but I love it anyway. It's, if you think about it, if you've ever had a good nap, a good dream, a good fantasy, the only difference between that world and this world is that this has physical elements and you can't control it as well. But if we ever do reach the point, I mean, there's a little bit of scary, where people have the physical interface of their five senses and the ability to program it. It's really going to be hard to figure out how people are going to get up and leave the house, because I'm a gamer and I'm a 3D flight simulator and everything else. And it's really hard to justify going out and spending $200
with your Amazon. You actually never leave. You never leave your room, really, do you, Spencer?
I very rarely leave my neighborhood. No, I'm kidding. But I do, to get out for exercise, fresh air. But I'm saying, from the standpoint of work, I have a constant conversation, which, by the way, is interesting, maybe to membership sites. I go out and socialize. That's one of my favorite things to do. New restaurants, going to social things with people, music, and so forth. However, when I meet my friends who have traditional jobs, that I used to practice law, for example, even they are not getting into suits and going to court. It's all virtual, right? The cities like Chicago are talking about converting the workspaces into residential islands. So if you think about the world as it is, the promise we always had for all of us who are doing this stuff was that we have technology that makes it possible for us to not, in a capitalist world, have to work so hard. The beauty of being online and having these things we joke about where we can leverage our capabilities is any of the audience members, because we're doing it ourselves, can create membership content, can create software, can create processes, can create services that reach people around the globe. And now more than ever can do it with a team of very few people, if at all. And that's, to me, the promise that we always had. It's that you can choose now not to get into a suit or get into something like overalls and do physical stuff. You can spend your time mostly doing fun stuff or things with the leverage, but you need a mindset for that. You can't just be like, show me what to do. You have to be curious. You have to be willing to experiment.
Yeah, so on to the next one, number 6, and we kind of covered this exhaustively last week, not building your audience. So basically it's this idea that you just build a course and the people will just come. Well, that might work if you've got a quite substantial, passionate niche audience or a very large audience, and you've built that and they're just waiting for your course. But normally you've got to build your audience to be able to market unless you're building a course about a very hot subject and you're getting it up and running before the competition, that kind of scenario. Would you agree with me there?
I mean, if you don't have an audience, you have nothing. You have an echo chamber. I mean, it's good for somebody who's just starting out because you have to start at zero. But as time goes on, I mean, this has been true for me. If you stick to a particular niche, or if you stick to being a certain genuine personality that aligns with your real personality, over time, you will find alignment with a certain subset of humanity. And in doing so, those people will tend to follow you wherever you may go. So in the early days of the WordPress space, I had a certain angle that was still consistently in my stuff today, but single dad, raising 3 sons, moving from the real world of real estate into the tech world. I had a love of flying and videography, and I'm going to show you how to make websites for other business owners like me in a world where everything was like being carved out of wood. Now, 17 years later, the topic is very similar. Now you're a freelancer who's either offshore or you're like my generation, retired out of or pushed out of a job, and you really want to become a freelancer in today's world. Well, today, the only difference is my kids are older, but the techniques and the tools are better. So now we focus on who are the customers, people like me who are basically, they want solutions. They want a human being to help them do it. And it's funny, but if you wait long enough, avocado appliances and bell-bottom jeans all come around again. But the audience is consistent, right? Like, you can switch teams, you can go to another audience, but like the better move is to figure out if you're genuinely who you are and you become the person who can grow as the technology improves for whatever you're teaching or showing. You can acquire, like a Rolling Stone, more moss as time goes on and not have to start over every, some certain number of years. If you don't focus on building an audience, crickets. I mean, you might enjoy what you're doing, but you're not going to make a living at it.
I think on to the next one, rushing to reduce your involvement in your membership website. I think that's kind of linked to your kind of interesting insights about AI, because in some ways I see a lot of people that's linked to it's turnkey. You don't have to put any effort into it, which I think is a load of cobblers. But on the other hand, I think with AI and what you've outlined, there's going to be kind of different levels of, I don't know if this is going to make any sense to you, but I've got this vision when it comes to membership, there'd be kind of more and more kind of gradual levels of had access to the real Spencer. You know, you got your kind of outreach, and then you got the AI Spencer, and then a premier AI version of Spencer. And then if you pay a certain amount, the real Spencer. Is this making any sense?
Yeah, but that's the opportunity, isn't it? So, full disclosure, because I don't think I'm hiding it, I've been releasing lots of little, well, my products and services have continued to be consistent, but as of late, I've been demonstrating, kind of going back to the roots, how using these tools myself, or how somebody who is just curious in my audience can use them, how you can now save yourself 80% of the time of things that we used to have to do. For example, the coding stuff. I mean, nobody's going to go out necessarily and start making a plugin like launch flows or something unless they have a good reason. However, there's lots of things we used to have to do that required a pre-made plugin or a snippet, or, oh my God, I got to learn PHP, CSS, JavaScript to do. Now there are ways to get to that solution by understanding what to ask AI. Or there are tools that allow those things to be in an interface where you can get it more immediate, like direct to consumer. For me, I'd be doing my audience a disservice if I pretended that that didn't exist and I continued to bang away with like a product that was vintage. In the website business, my primary business, whether it be for entrepreneurs or enterprise, is how to connect a CRM or put a CRM into a pre-made solution that's WordPress as a service. Now, that was the very same topic I talked about in 2006 and 7, but the difference was it was like a balsa wood model aircraft that had like some pieces of balsa and some plans, and you needed a knife and glue, and you built everything from scratch. The 2023 version is, I've got these ready to go TV dinners. You push a button, follow my instructions, and then find your market fit with this thing. I don't know. It's like literally 90% of the work is gone, but the business model is still the same. So whatever it is that you're teaching or selling or interacting with people, you have to continually to improve your product so that it actually serves the customer's needs and solves their pains. And it's not living in a vacuum, because I find, for example, with the social media, I'm not picking on Gary Vaynerchuk. He's a success beyond belief. But like one of the things that I never understood, and I knew when he first came out, I remember specifically when I first heard him, he's maybe 8 or 9, maybe a couple more years younger than me. He's in his late 40s now. I'm 56, as I said. That dude is going to stroke out. He's just going to stroke out, because I had been raising 3 kids and running all my stuff solo while juggling 8 million things.
I have that effect on you most times.
What?
I have that effect on you most times. You want to take a pill.
I'm not saying stroke. He's going to stroke out for being angry. I'm saying he's stroke out from the fact that the point is his model, his product was, there was 3 or 4 social network things, and everybody's got to constantly publish 24 hours a day. I'm like, whoa. As we just discussed, today's 2023 is, you're going to be competing against AI and like some person who just programs in this like automated thing that's going to be going 24/7 faster than you can ever do. So why fight that? Why not just rethink what you're doing and go, well, who's actually paying me the money? The person. And doesn't the person want simpler like I want, because they want to go and enjoy the fruits of all this automation and their labor? And even for their business, why do they need an online business? Why do they need a website? And for most people, you can pre-make an engine that has that, like, for anybody, and it doesn't require you to spend 24 hours a day making TikTok videos or Instagram or on social media. To those who wish to do that, God bless them. I love consuming it. But now you're not competing against 5 really cool, innovative people. You're competing against like 2 billion people that are all competing to get attention through like 5 channels. And I just feel like it's a decision that anybody can make for themselves. But it has
I see where you're going. But the other way I see this is, yes, it's going to be easier to produce content to some level. But also on the other side, that AI is going to be utilized to build curation engines, as I call them, that will be able to curate larger amount of content and then provide to an audience with some human input, editor, editorial team, what they see as all this new content, what they see as the best. So at the present moment, you can see the production of content just exploding through AI, but also I do see on the other side what I call AI creation engines. Is that making sense?
The thing that you can use as the term is curation. So, for example, I was saying you could take it down to an executive bullet list, but the curation term makes sense. You're saying essentially, I have access to tools that are now the modern latest tools. I'm going to use them for you to act as your liaison to get you the pain point solutions you need. And I'm going to do it in a way that doesn't require you to compete against the tools or to compete against other people who have, bigger budgets or lesser budgets. It's going to be something that's like a shoe store salesperson. I'm going to sit there and put shoes on, recommend shoes to you that would actually fit and feel good. And you'll walk out of here with the shoes that you really are happy with versus trying at every shoe in the shoe store or, just randomly picking a shoe off the shelf and hoping for the best. And I think that human interaction is something that is even more important today in a world where we're just literally competing against, it's exciting and thrilling and frightening all at once, but we're competing against the unknown. The genie coming out of the bottle is so ever present in my mind. And I don't feel, unlike some people, I don't feel fear as much as I feel excitement because I've been through this, I'd say 4 times in my life. I'm Gen X, like this technology stuff is, I had 1 foot in the old world and now I'm 1 foot in the new world, and I've got kids that I think about for them. But even for my business, this is exciting shit. But you have to be curious. You have to be open at any age to adapting to what the world is offering,
Yeah, before we go on to our last point, I've been thinking, I know it's surprising, Jonathan, thinking doesn't normally happen, does it, Spencer? But I've always laid a tank trap for Spencer to see if he'll throw himself in. So I've been thinking, Spencer, you've been a promoter of this Lego layout of the future of WordPress, and I wouldn't say I totally dismissed it, but I would say I didn't totally warm to it because I did agree that the flea market part of WordPress had its consequences, but also that freedom to choose best of breed. But I'm kind of warming to it because I'm not sure how this will work out, but the only way I can is having a kind of centralized wheel where you can add on Lego to the spokes. And this is linked to maybe WordPress and specific platforms to solve a specific problem for the end user in producing apps for Android and OS. And it's the one area you see it with BuddyBoss, and they produced their app for OS. I don't think they produce one for Android, which something like Mighty Networks, or I know Kajabi have entered the community space because they bought a startup and they're building it out in Kajabi. And it's one of the weaknesses of WordPress, being able to offer a really good mobile solution, because I see AI and being able to build code and that, the possibilities of offering mobile app solutions for OS and Android being an exciting opportunity. Do you think I'm on to anything there, or do you think I'm losing the plot?
Well, I'll just take what I heard and turn it into something. I've been watching a lot of content and reading a lot of content. Well, I'm just going to expand into where I think it fits. So our old friend Morton has been doing some stuff on LinkedIn Learning. I've been seeing other YouTube videos. I've been seeing a lot of it around the Twitter space. I've been playing with myself. I mean, I'm doing it like as we're speaking for our own stuff. It will be very difficult for anybody to remember the good old days of when you type in random words into a line and then see a list of like a newspaper or a billboard of stuff from Google, because the natural inclination of all of us is, as I've been trying to explain here, to have somebody, something give us the answer we want and then learn how to interact. So whatever the tool is from whoever the tool is from, I feel like all of these tools will interact in a common way, which is very similar to human interaction. So like coding up until now has been learn the language, learn the concepts, start with a blank slate. In the real world or in AI programming, you start with a concept that you have to be good at describing with words that still interface with something that is understood by the AI. But that's a very unusually different task than the task of going into right brain mode, like go from my memory of what's that PHP function or how do I do that? So what I like about that, and I've been trying to share that in my own little way and doing things with it, is like when I wrote the Launch Flows plugin, it was a challenge because I don't think I'd ever written anything that big. I didn't even know if I could do it, but I just started like one little bit at a time and like this plus this plus this. And over a year, it became something. 3 years, 4 years, it became something better. But if I were to do it today, like it wouldn't be built the same way because the tools exist that I could just say, this is what I want to have happen. And the AI spits it out. Or today for the show, here's our topic and here's what I want you specifically to give me. I need a summary of the show. I need keywords. I need you to research the keywords, give me rankings of 90% or better. And then what I want you to do is put links to relevant content in. And I want you to organize in paragraph form and like I have to describe what I want. So I need to know the concepts of what I would have done in the old days manually and now be able to verbalize it instead of just chopping the tree down and using muscle memory. And I think that's the essence of where we're going, which to a sci-fi fan like myself, it could be frightening or exciting. I think it's kind of exciting because, you know, Star Trek and even in Star Wars, it's like, you know, computer, do this. And that was the dream, right? I mean, if you have an assistant.
Hal,
you know,
can you open the door for me? No.
I mean, we have those things. When I used to build houses, we had all these early days automated. It was so janky, but like these things that would connect to the light switches, and you'd have to dial a phone up or push these big buttons. Now, I'm not going to say her name, but even with the most basic of voice command tools, you can have it do things like open your garage and turn on the lights and take your cat out, you know, the litter box and whatever. So I think it's just a matter of somebody would be living in a fairy tale if they thought that, first of all, humans are going to act differently. We're not. We're going to act the same way. We're just now being given the second thing that you'd be crazy to avoid. Pretending like these tools don't exist is nuts. So it's going to be like it has been in the past, but more, I think, concentrated. When we went from house phones to early cell phones and fax machines, and then to text messaging, and then to mobile devices, and then to computers, then to laptops, then to iPads, onto like each of these things brought a wow. The big difference here is that we've been so brainwashed by Google for 12 years or whatever it's been into search is like a paid experience and type in that people are freaking out like how awesome this is. And certainly that those things now interacting with mechanical devices is going to be even crazier. But then we're just going to adapt. And it's going to be like Star Wars world or Star Trek world or one of those sci-fi things where there'll be like an Amazon drone that comes to your house and it can't come down because it's too loud. It'll just drop a little string and put the package on. And there'll be like a mobile all automated car that will drive up. And if you don't like what's there, you'll talk to it. I mean, you're shaking your head, but it's just, we already see inklings of this. And same thing for people. Like maybe Spence looks too old or he's too vain and he doesn't want to be live, but maybe my voice still works. Well, maybe I'll have the AI improved version of spend.
Well, I am starting to have, because you haven't really been following some of my jokes. So this
I need
episode, so I'm
I
starting to have
need
some doubts if I'm talking to the real Spencer, actually.
I have poor hearing, and one of the things that is interesting to me is I wear hearing aids. It's not a surprise. I was a rock and roll guy and an airplane guy, so I have like a ringing in my ears that's at the voice of most people. One of the things that's amazing to me is when I'm communicating with people, I will always, it's just not available here, I will always have like live closed captioning. So even somebody with a heavy accent or bad microphone, I can get what they're saying. There's going to be soon, I've seen early examples of it, like something that'll show up in my glasses that will give me real-time closed captioning, which means I could speak to somebody no matter where and see what they're doing. But I do anticipate, because hearing is pretty easily fixed, probably in my lifetime, they'll be able to fix what's wrong with my tinnitus or fix what's wrong with my hearing, just like they fixed all kinds of things like knees and elbows and everything else. But that's an example of how, okay, do I sit here and woe is me, or do I just carry on? The point is, I use the tools as they come up to amplify my ability in my status as it is to do things. And so for those who are thinking of membership as like their next step because they're retired or they get involuntarily retired, or they're from offshore and they're trying to break into a market where Americans are very particular about how they want to do business with people, that's the kind of stuff that I teach. You know, I have this yourbestprofile.com. I have the tools and the fun stuff at WP Launch Club. I have the consultancy at WP Launchify, and I have these ready to go things at WP Launch Kit. Those are all designed with that reality in mind, which is, why do you want to work? Well, most of us want to make money to have the life that we would like to enjoy, like hanging out in sweat clothes and going skiing and being with our kids and working out and taking naps and doing stuff, not getting in a suit and going downtown anymore. And if that's the goal, then make use of the tools so you can actually achieve that dream, which was work less for the same amount of money. Instead of, I don't get it, but we were talking on this show, why a billionaire like Elon Musk is lost his freaking marbles and is on there like banging around on Twitter instead of getting us to Mars or solving the electricity problem. I don't know. He's lost his mind. But like, if I had $1 billion, I wouldn't be fighting with people on Twitter. I would be like, who's the guy? Remember Tom?
I have no idea what. Who knows?
Tom from MySpace took $500 million 25 years ago. We've never heard from the guy again. That's how it should be. You know what I mean? Like, make enough money, do what you want.
Yeah, let's just end with number 8. Not finding your product and market fit. Well, you know, that is covered a lot in the bootstrap startup community. That's like doing a small course, building an audience, finding out what their real problems are. It's kind of really all covered, and there's a lot of podcasts and information about the startup that applies to membership, isn't it? And I do, because I think this is like making sure you got audience. It is really important, isn't it? Because spending a lot of time, but I suppose it's also linked to AI, because it enables it. It will help you produce content. Like a mini course, and test the market and not wait. I see so many people part of the Learn Dash Lifter Buddy Boss communities, and they've spent a lot of time building a course and they haven't really identified if anybody really cares. Is this making sense, Spencer?
Yeah, in fact, I'm going to add a number 9 to our list, which is evergreen content. So one of the things that I think is my superpower and my consulting clients appreciate is I am constantly living the same method I've been describing just now about how I can do less stuff and make as much money or whatever. And one of the things is I learned over 17 years of making content, make it evergreen. That is to say, instead of all the content being branded and watermarked and specific to the product name and the price, make stuff that in a world of AI or an endless content supply, you can slice in, slice out, remove, reuse, repurpose, and so forth, because then you've got like an endless well of raw materials to draw from. So many people make the mistake now of like, I'm making this course, and they spend 6 months on it. And by the time they're done and it's all watermarked and everything, they referred to the price and the name of the brand and their partner, shit has gone sideways. And now they have 29 lessons and 17 hours of video that is worthless because they had made it too specific and non-evergreen, right? And it's not an uncommon thing, unfortunately. I mean, it's really actually quite common. So that's what I feel like is a good number 9, is make sure that you don't destroy the value of your raw materials by not making them evergreen. You know, make them evergreen.
It's fantastic. So, Spencer, let's wrap it up. If you want to support the show, please leave us a review on iTunes. Also, go to the WP-Tonic channel and subscribe to the WP-Tonic channel, and also give us some feedback. It's all much appreciated. So, Spencer, what are the best ways for people to find out more about you and your ideas and products?
I would like people to go to spencerforman.com. That's SPENCERFORMAN. That's where I have all of my 4 pillars of business. I've got all my latest content, and it acts as a hub. However, I am right now offering at WP Launch Club, one of my businesses, some of this exact same stuff. Yourbestprofile.com is teaching you how to succeed as a freelancer in a world that's changing. Number 2 is all these tchotchkes and like one-off solutions for doing things really simply without having to buy or install complicated plugins. And the other things are workshops. So the idea is, just like I'm recommending here, bite-size, easy to consume, instant win kind of stuff that will help you literally do the same stuff that I've demonstrated for 40,000 plus people over 17 years. And now more than ever is really relevant because, you know, it is the latest and greatest things that actually work in the real world.
That's fantastic. We'll be back next week with another fantastic topic. And it should be a great show. We'll see you soon, folks. Bye.